When I first stepped toward pain instead of comfort, it was not because I enjoyed suffering. It was because I wanted to know myself without the soft mask that ease places over the face of the spirit. Comfort is a kind teacher, but it tells you very little about who you are. Pain, on the other hand, asks questions that cannot be ignored. It asks how long you can stand when your legs shake, how steady your breath remains when your chest feels tight, how clear your mind stays when everything inside you wants to escape. I remember mornings when the cold air felt like it was cutting through my skin, when my hands were stiff and my body begged me to return to warmth. In those moments, I learned something important. The body speaks loudly, but it does not always speak wisely. If you obey every complaint, you live a small life. If you listen, acknowledge, and then move forward anyway, you begin to discover a deeper voice beneath the noise. That voice does not shout, it waits. Pain became my mirror. In it, I saw my impatience, my pride, my hidden fear. When a task felt too heavy or a path felt too long, I noticed how quickly my mind tried to bargain. Just a little rest, just a little delay, just a little excuse. I learned that these whispers were not enemies but tests. They showed me exactly where my edge was, and every time I stepped beyond that edge, it moved. There is a strange clarity that comes when you are tired, when your muscles burn and your breath is short. The unnecessary thoughts fall away. You stop worrying about how you appear, about what others think, about what might happen tomorrow. You are left only with the present moment and the simple choice to continue or to stop. In that space, I found honesty. I found out what mattered enough to keep moving when there was no reward waiting at the end. Many people chase comfort as if it were peace. They fill their days with softness, with distraction, with anything that keeps discomfort at a distance. But peace does not come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from knowing that you can face it and remain standing. I chose pain because it taught me that lesson every day. Each challenge I accepted became a stone added to the foundation of my mind. Over time, that foundation grew so strong that storms passed over it without leaving a crack. I learned to greet hardship the way you greet an old teacher, not with excitement but with respect. I understood that every moment of strain was shaping me into something more precise, more aware, more controlled. When my body resisted, my mind became sharper. When my mind resisted, my will became steadier. This was not about becoming hard or cold, it was about becoming clear. There were nights when I lay awake feeling every ache and replaying every mistake of the day. In the quiet, those moments could have turned into self-pity or regret. Instead, I treated them like lessons written in my own blood and breath. I asked myself what each struggle was trying to teach me. Sometimes the answer was patience. Sometimes it was humility. Sometimes it was simply endurance. Pain also taught me compassion, though it may not seem that way from the outside. When you know what it feels like to be pushed to your limit, you begin to recognize that same battle in others. You see the tension in their shoulders, the hesitation in their words, the tiredness behind their eyes. You understand that everyone is carrying something heavy, even if they never speak of it. This understanding keeps you grounded. It keeps your strength from turning into arrogance. Choosing pain over comfort does not mean you seek suffering for its own sake. It means you choose the path that grows you instead of the one that preserves you. It means you accept the long road instead of the shortcut, the practice instead of the praise, the discipline instead of the applause. It means you invest in the person you are becoming, not the image you are showing. I watched others rush toward easy victories, quick recognition, and fast rewards. For a while it looked like they were far ahead of me. Their progress was visible, mine was hidden, but what they built quickly they lost just as quickly. What I built slowly I carried with me everywhere. When their motivation faded, my habits remained. When their confidence shook, my foundation held. There is a moment after many days of choosing the harder path when something changes. The pain does not disappear, but your relationship to it does. It becomes familiar, almost neutral. You stop seeing it as a signal to stop and start seeing it as a sign that you are exactly where you need to be. That is when true strength begins to show itself, not in loud displays or dramatic victories, but in quiet consistency. I learned to take pride in the invisible work, the hours no one counted, the effort no one praised, the progress no one noticed. This kind of pride is different from the kind that needs an audience. It is private, it is steady, it does not rise and fall with opinion, it stays. Through all of this, I came to understand that the greatest enemy is not the difficulty in front of you, but the desire to turn away from it. Every time you choose to face what is hard, you weaken that enemy. Every time you choose comfort instead, you strengthen it. This choice happens in small moments, not just in grand ones. It happens when you wake up tired, when you feel unmotivated, when you are tempted to quit early or settle for less. I made it a practice to treat those moments as my real training. Anyone can be strong when they feel inspired. Few can be strong when they feel nothing at all. I aimed to become one of the few. I aimed to build a mind that did not depend on mood, energy, or praise, a mind that moved forward because that is simply what it does. Over time, the path of pain gave me something comfort never could. It gave me trust in myself. Not the kind of trust that says I will always succeed, but the kind that says I will always stand back up. That trust became my anchor. With it, I could step into uncertainty without fear, into challenge without hesitation, into silence without doubt. So if you stand at the edge of an easy road and a hard one, remember that only one of them will show you who you truly are. Step forward, feel the weight of the choice, and carry it with you, because the strength you build in that moment will walk beside you for the rest of your life. I came to understand comfort as a gentle hand that slowly presses you into the ground. It feels kind at first, it promises rest, safety, and ease. But over time, it teaches you to shrink your world to fit what feels familiar. I watched this happen to people around me. They built their lives around what was soft, what was predictable, what required the least resistance. Their days became smooth and their minds became narrow. They were protected from strain, but also from growth. I chose to walk another way. Not because I believed I was stronger than anyone else, but because I knew how easily I could become weak if I allowed myself to settle. Weakness does not always arrive as failure. Sometimes it arrives as comfort that feels deserved, as routines that never challenge you, as habits that slowly steal your edge while telling you everything is fine. There were moments when I felt that pull deeply. After long days of effort, after nights of cold and hunger, the idea of stopping, of staying in one place, of building a soft shelter around my life felt tempting. It whispered that I had earned it, that I had done enough, that I could rest now and remain who I was, but I had learned to listen carefully to those whispers. They often come right before you reach a new level of understanding. Comfort is clever. It does not demand anything from you. It asks only that you stay where you are, and in doing so it slowly takes away your ability to move when you truly need to. I saw this in the way people avoided difficult conversations, hard decisions, and unfamiliar paths. They chose what kept them calm in the moment, even if it made them smaller in the long run. I began to see that resilience is not built by avoiding pressure, but by learning how to stand within it without breaking. So I made it a rule to notice when something felt too easy. Not every easy thing is bad, but when ease becomes the goal, something important is lost. I asked myself, is this making me sharper or duller? Is this expanding my awareness or narrowing it? These questions became my guide when the road forked between what was comfortable and what was challenging. I remember times when my body ached and my mind was tired, and the thought of stopping felt like relief. In those moments, I did not push myself blindly. I listened. I felt the fatigue, the soreness, the hunger. But instead of letting them decide for me, I let them inform me. There is a difference. The body reports what it feels. The will decides what to do with that information. When I learned this, I stopped being controlled by discomfort and started working with it. Comfort tries to make you forget this distinction. It tells you that feeling tired means you should stop, that feeling unsure means you should turn back, that feeling bored means you should seek distraction. But I discovered that these feelings are often the doorway to something deeper. On the other side of tiredness is endurance. On the other side of uncertainty is understanding. On the other side of boredom is focus. There is a quiet pride that comes from doing what is difficult without anyone knowing. No one sees the moments when you choose to stay present instead of drifting, when you choose to practice instead of entertain yourself, when you choose to reflect instead of escape. These moments do not bring applause, they do not bring recognition, but they bring something far more valuable. They bring self-respect. Over time, I noticed how this way of living changed me. My reactions became slower and more deliberate. My decisions became clearer. I was less shaken by sudden changes, less disturbed by unexpected challenges. While others were thrown off balance when their routines were disrupted, I felt steady because I had trained myself not to depend on smoothness. I began to see comfort not as an enemy but as a test. When something became too easy, too familiar, too predictable, I took it as a sign to look for a new angle, a new challenge, a new way to grow. This did not mean constantly seeking hardship for its own sake. It meant refusing to let my world become so small that nothing in it could stretch me. There were seasons when this choice made me feel alone. Others gathered around warmth and shared ease while I walked into cold and quiet. They did not always understand why I would choose the harder path when an easier one was available. I did not try to explain. Some things cannot be understood until they are experienced. I trusted that the work I was doing inside myself would one day speak for me. And it did, in subtle ways. I found that when pressure came, I did not panic. When plans fell apart, I did not collapse. When people doubted me, I did not rush to defend myself. I had already faced something more demanding than their opinions. I had faced my own limits and learned how to move beyond them. Comfort can protect you from pain, but it can also protect you from possibility. When you stay within what you know, you rarely discover what you could become. I wanted to meet that unknown version of myself, even if it meant walking through difficulty to get there. I learned to welcome moments that made me uncomfortable, not with excitement but with curiosity. What is this trying to show me? What skill is this asking me to develop? What part of me is being challenged? These questions turned obstacles into teachers. Each answer added another layer to my understanding of who I was and who I could be. There is a kind of freedom that comes from not needing things to be easy. When you no longer require perfect conditions to move forward, you can move forward in any condition. Rain or sun, praise or criticism, success or failure, you remain in motion. This is a powerful place to stand because the world loses its ability to stop you. I do not live this way to be admired, I live this way to be aligned. Aligned with the person I want to be, not the comfort I want to feel. Feelings change, conditions change, the commitment you make to your own growth can remain. So when you find yourself choosing between what is soft and what is strengthening, pause, feel the weight of that moment. It is not just about this single choice. It is about the pattern you are creating for your life. Each time you step toward challenge, you make the next step easier. Each time you step toward comfort, you make the next challenge harder. In the end, the world does not measure you by how comfortable you were, but by how steady you became. And that steadiness is built, piece by piece, in the moments when you choose to rise instead of settle, to move instead of stay, to grow instead of remain the same. Walk the harder path today, so tomorrow you can walk any path at all.